Welcome to the Reidsville Chamber of Commerce News and Views show. I'm your host, Diane Sawyer, President and CEO of the Reidsville Chamber of Commerce. I am so excited to welcome back my guest today, City Manager Summer Moore.
Thank you. It is great to be back and to be back in this chair and just getting to talk with you and kind of catch up on some exciting events going on throughout the city and with the chamber.
Yeah, and welcome back to this chair. I was trying to think between maternity leave and the 100th show that we were just talking about. It's been several months because we did the show on special location at the Penthouse. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Really welcome back to the show and to the chair. But also new mommy.
I know. I'm so excited. This is our first week in daycare, so a little nervous, but we've got great facilities here in the city of Reidsville, and I'm just excited to be back to our team and our community. It was very nice to be able to have some time to spend with my family and to get my little girl ready for daycare. So it's kind of our first week back and getting into new routines.
Yeah, well, it's always exciting because they change so much. And she's already changed so much. But she is beautiful like her mother. And we are very excited for you. It's a whole new role. And it is something to balance both what you're passionate about in your career and being a mother. And so you and I have a lot of that in common, because I know you are excited to be back because you are passionate about Reidsville and the city and your team, who did phenomenal while you were gone. They really did.
I cannot thank our interim city manager, Chris Phillips, enough. Our assistant city managers, Haywood Cloud and Josh Farmer, just for holding things down and just continuing to really embody Team Reidsville during my absence. So I can't give them enough props, along with Angela Stadler and other members of our great team.
Oh, yeah, they did a great job. Speaking of, while you were gone, because it's that time of year, right? It's budget. They had the retreat while you were gone, but I know you were able to zoom in for that, I believe.
Actually attended.
Oh, you did attend. So see, all that worked out. So she came early, and then the timing of everything really lined up. So
it did.
Well, that's awesome. I did not know you got to come in person. That's exciting.
It was exciting.
Well, then let's talk about that, because I know that kind of drives everything that's happening for the year, both with budget and projects and things that are not the run-of-the-mill normal stuff. Like, tell us about what's happening.
So one of the really exciting things that we're excited about at the city that came from the retreat is the topic of Lake Hunt and kind of what the community wants to see with Lake Hunt. There were some really great ideas thrown around about possibly looking at Lake Hunt for recreational activities, maybe looking at redoing it's kind of a building down there. I wouldn't really call it like a boat shed or anything, but redoing the facilities down there, giving it an upgrade. Also looking at maybe creating some fun water activities out there on Lake Hunt. When I say water activities, there's Fantasy Lake. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am very much
some of the inflatables. So our team's really done a good job in the last several months trying to get a lot of information together to see what it would take to create maybe not something as big as the Fantasy Lake with the inflatables and obstacle courses to go on the lake, but something maybe similar, and then coming up with like maybe a beach area with umbrellas. So really just excited to see what we can do from the state level with Lake Hunt. We were able, prior to me leaving to go out on maternity leave, we were able to talk to the state and see if there were any restrictions with Lake Hunt. There are some restrictions, but you can swim in Lake Hunt, we have learned, because it is not our primary water source. So that's why we're starting to look at swimming activities at Lake Hunt. But we've got a lot of fun things to look at. One of the things that council suggested we look at for budget from the retreat was to put in maybe a master plan for Lake Hunt and to work with some engineering firms to see what a true recreational opportunity Lake Hunt could be. Also during the discussion at the retreat came the discussion about the possibility of allowing the homeowners on Lake Hunt the opportunity to put in boat docks. I know that's been a request for quite a while from some of the owners, so I was excited to see council open to discussing that. I believe our planning and development director, Ms. Drew Bigelow, is working to set up a meeting, kind of a public meeting, and invite all the property owners on Lake Hunt and just get some information on what would you like to see as far as, the size of boat docks. Are you interested in a boat dock? So we're just really, really excited to kind of focus this year on what are the potentials at Lake Hunt now that we know swimming and other activities could possibly be allowed, but also preserving, the quiet nature of Lake Hunt if possible. So really just kind of wanting to get that out there to the community and see what the community wants to see with Lake Hunt.
Yeah, so backing up a little bit, just a kind of a refresher, and you've kind of covered it, but I wanted to explain a little bit more. The whole thing that started all of this was, I think, finding out from the state that the classification, right, wasn't what it used to be.
Correct.
That I guess it had changed, but they weren't made aware, or there was, or when they were made aware, it was like, oh, so now we can look at this, and that's kind of where all this came from.
So I'm glad you asked kind of some of the things that had changed. Staff has been very mindful because everyone's always interested on the possibility of Lake Reidsville and those opportunities. So staff always keeps a close eye to see if any changes at the state occur. Unfortunately, with Lake Reidsville, it is our primary drinking source. Nothing has changed from the state standpoint as far as allowing swimming. Yes, I know you and I talk about this. I think we try and throw this out there every year. It is a hard sell when you say, well, you can have boats and you can have, tubing out there, but you can't have swimming. I completely agree, but that is a state law with it being a drinking source. So when we had made that phone call, again, just trying to check up to see if anything had changed, that's when we realized maybe we should start looking at Lake Hunt. And they had relaxed, the state had started to relax some of the regulations on secondary water sources, because Lake Hunt is still our designated secondary water sources. But secondary water sources now have more permitted uses, which include swimming. So that's kind of what brought that to the forefront. Is we may not be able to offer swimming at Lake Reidsville at this time, but it looks like there's possibilities at Lake Hunt.
Yeah, and I mean, they're two kind of totally different nature areas anyway. So like Lake Reidsville is going to be, it's still going to be primarily like camping, and like there's all this space to do the things like disc golf and some of the other really, and the water activities. I mean, the lake is huge. So if you're out there doing one of those activities, great. But like you said, being able to do like maybe a beach area or whatever, I think it's going to be really phenomenal. And yes, I am very familiar with that. I've never been, but my brother lives about 10 minutes from there, or used to, his old house. He used to live about 10 minutes from there. So it's kind of interesting. That's the first thing I think of when I think of turning it into something that could be used like that. So, we just did a show with Montana, your economic development, and the whole team, and just talking about all the things they're doing. And we were talking about the number of houses that are coming and how our census is going to go up. And there's all this. So again, like that's another thing, like when he's using a recruiting tool, like having quality of life, having things that families can do, like that's going to be major for Reidsville to have stuff like that. So
I learned an interesting fun fact this morning at a meeting I was in. Our city planner, we were talking about budget and going back to housing opportunities and parcels. I did not realize that in the city of Reidsville, we have 6,100 parcels, unique parcels. Which I just thought that was interesting, because kind of going back, with growth and opportunity to kind of see, where we can go with that, and the potential for additional homes. Some of the homes, we've got on our books a little over 1,500 new homes supposed to come online in the next 2 to 3 years. Unfortunately right now it's kind of, the economic times are a little uncertain.
Yeah.
So I think that is maybe possibly one reason why you see some slow development right now. With interest rates are still a little high. They are starting to come down, but also just the cost of things. If you went to the, grocery store or gas pump, like unfortunately things are still, we're all still experiencing inflation. And I don't think that's any differently in our housing market, unfortunately. But we are excited with seeing Reidsville grow and the possibility of these new homes and a mixture of homes, single families to townhomes, to apartment complexes, just trying to give housing options for everyone, depending on maybe where they are in their life. If you're wanting a starter home, or if you're wanting more to downsize and have apartment or townhome with lower maintenance, I think our developers have done a great job trying to provide a mix for our residents and future residents to choose from.
I agree with that. And I think that we're just on the cusp of, and like you said, I mean, right now, unfortunately, I think everything has slowed down because, I mean, when the basic necessities like gas, gas drives everything because everybody has to factor gas into whether it's driving to and from work, but then, so many businesses, that is a huge part of their budget, and fuel is, I mean, within the city. I mean, I'm sure it's a big deal. So we have all of that going on. So yes, I think some things may be stunted a little bit more than we would like over the next little bit, but I think that as everything cycles, we will see that continue to probably come back, and then we'll see the other things that were happening ramp back up.
No, and I think you just nailed it. Everything does cycle. I mean, you see this every few years, decades, you can see this. And I do think, from the city standpoint, it's just to make sure that we've invested in our infrastructure and we're doing everything we can to be business oriented and community oriented, to where when things are picking up or people are looking to relocate here or move here, or build here or open a business here, that we are up to date on everything with our policies and regulations to make sure that we're ensuring we're business friendly and customer service friendly and residential friendly. So I think that's just some things we as the city can be doing in between until we see, some things start to come back.
It's funny that we're talking about this. So, and we were just talking about, before we came on the show, talking about kids and stuff. And I have a child getting her learner's permit. She just turned 15, and we're talking about insurance and driving and all the things. And like the viral trends of like, you're this old, like I'm 99, gas was 99 cents a gallon old. Like that's how I remember the store coming out of our neighborhood, always looking at the gas prices. And when I started driving, it was 99 cents a gallon. So like I think about that, and I think about, I'm in my mid 40s. So when you talk about cycles and you think about things do increase and they kind of really skyrocket, and then they maybe come back about halfway. That's a good point. And over time it builds, but so do all the other things, right? So do wages, so do, and so I think we're just in one of those times. And, Montana and I on the previous show, we're talking about economic development, and we were talking about like post-COVID like events and how, and I was saying to him, like for me, like in my lifetime, nothing like that's ever happened. And so coming back to gathering and being like just in the community, and how important I think some of the things that they're doing for the farmers market and some of that is, so your teams, like all of your teams are just doing such amazing things. Like, you've got such a great team.
We do, and I can't commend them enough for all their hard work. And I do want to touch on something you said too, is just kind of changes and community and coming back together. One of the trends kind of noticing too is people are really wanting to participate more in events. They want that. They want a downtown feel. They want a small town feel. You see more people wanting to go and visit different downtowns versus spending a Saturday going to a shopping mall. Yeah. I don't know. I had not been to a shopping mall in probably several years. I visited one maybe a month ago in Winston-Salem, Haynes Mall, and I was shocked at just how different it was from maybe you and I growing up.
Literally, Montana said the exact same thing. He was talking about how different they are. It's I've also recently been to one too, and I had not been to a mall in forever, but I had a kid who needed a dress for something, and so we went to a mall in we went to Oak Hollow. And like, I was kind of blown away. It just looks different. So
it's a different feel. And I think that is something communities can take advantage of, is, people are wanting that smaller, unique feel to unique mom and pop businesses versus commercial businesses. And I think that's just something we all need to be mindful of when people are coming and looking at our area is, there is a huge draw for that right now.
Yeah, which is why what Tom is doing with our mall is so fabulous.
So thankful.
What he's doing is he's taking away that blemish for us. And I told Montana this, I was like, and not to just go down this whole rabbit hole again, but like I was talking about, if you had let me make a list of the top 3 or top 5 things in my time that I either really, really desperately wanted to happen or I didn't know would ever happen, but I knew it would be a game changer, the mall would have been one of them. Maybe even number one. And so for me, like what he's doing with bringing local businesses in. So exactly with what you're talking about, everybody wants the mom and pops. And so like that's what he's putting into the mall and making it affordable for people who want to have small businesses and lease spaces. And it's incredible. Like it makes me want to jump up and down. I'm so excited. Like I think people were like, Diane, you've lost your mind. And I'm like, no, you just don't understand, because he was talking about it is a huge step. And it's one of those pieces we've chiseled away. And people, the social media, when you look at an area, and he was talking, we were telling stories about how the site selectors look and pick and so like the mall has been a blemish for us for so long. And that's going to take away all that negativity around that. And that's going to help Reidsville. And so just encouraging people to be positive and embrace the positive stuff, because that is what's going to help grow our community.
And we can't thank Tom Holderby enough for, seeing the need in our community here. And, I would encourage anyone to drive by and look. I was driving by the other day going to Turk's for lunch. And I mean, just the exterior that he's working on.
Does it not just put a smile
on your face? It's like you said, it's
just
like a new breath of life and just so many possibilities. And it's just so positive to see this change.
And it brings that part of town, it's funny because City Storage did such a great job with the old Kmart building, and you've got Turk's, which is a staple. You've got the splash pad. You've got, so the mall is like the center of all of those things that are happening all around that area. So that part of town is getting like a facelift, and
it's your gateway.
It is and it is a huge gateway.
It's a huge gateway.
Because the connector's right there. And so people, and it's funny because a lot of people don't realize that are from here, if they go their own way to get to 29 and they don't pay attention. But if you put it on the map, if you put it in Waze or the maps or Apple or whatever, it brings you through right by the mall. And so it's such a big deal because, and for years we've worked with Pelham and shuttled from the mall to downtown for downtown events, things like Fab Fest and that sort of thing. So and the parade starts up there. Speaking of parades, I know we have exciting news about that, but parades starting up there, it just, I don't know, it just gives that whole small town vibe again. And it's got this, it's like spring blooming.
That's
that part of town has just bloomed, and it's amazing.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Seeds are planted and finally starting to see some blooms come. So yeah, but thank you for that, because that is a huge gateway that I think a lot of us forget about, because that is how your maps are going to bring you into town.
Well, yeah, because you're trained, you aesthetically pleasing things, right? And so people kind of just right? That, or it's like a train wreck and you go by and you're looking at oh, there's another piece of the building falling off or another, and so between the two is where we've had to live, right? What we wanted to see versus kind of what we were seeing. So now it's the heavens have opened up and shined on it. So I love it. I love that Tom is from here. I've told the story many times. I used to drive over from Eden and shop at Hodgepodge. And I know you weren't here then, but Hodgepodge was a big deal because you registered for your wedding there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. And you got your, China, there were all these things that you could do there. So it wasn't just a knick-knack gift shop. It was a big deal.
That's awesome.
And so, and it smelled phenomenal. It had you could buy the candles and you could jar candles, and it just, I don't know, it gives me goosebumps thinking about what I cannot wait to see what it is going to be like, because it's going to be awesome.
Good.
So let's talk about something that's not so fun. Fun for me and you, but not fun for everybody else necessarily. budget brings about the talk of what your departments are up to. And we always, before we leave today, I love for you to always give that budget calendar rundown, because I think that's so
Absolutely.
transparent. But your public works folks are killing it. Like, they are doing such a good job. And the council has put so much money towards our infrastructure, which is so important. So let's talk about, I know last updates we were talking about like the main pipe and like that project. I know that I was just with your folks because of Leadership Rockingham, and they were talking about some of the things that are happening. So tell some of our viewers about where we are with public works.
So we feel like, when we first, maybe 4 and 5 years ago, we are just kicking off these projects. And, that's the really thing I want to bring to light to our viewers is, projects involving water and sewer and projects of those magnitudes, they take years. I mean, it's not a year or 2 years. Like your average project's anywhere from 2 to 5 years from beginning to completion.
It's just like DOT.
Same.
It's hard.
And so to be able to plan for that, because the project's ongoing or when it's coming online, is key. So with that, some of the projects that we're really excited that will hopefully start wrapping up by the end of this year is our generator at our water treatment plant. I know that, I think it was like February of 2021. It was right before I was able to join our team. We had a failure with that where the generator failed. So we were able to get funding through Reese Pirtle's office to help with that generator. The overall project's a little over $8 million. We're able to get $3.5 million from the state. So that project is actually slated to be finished December of 2026. The importance of that is, if you have a power emergency or a power failure, our generator at the water plant was 1970s. They weren't even making parts for it. So to be able now to have a full plant generator has been huge. So I'm really thankful to see that project almost near completion when we first started it 4 and 5 years ago. Our redundant water line, we're very close to that. We've got about 2 more property owners that we've not been able to connect with in reference to acquiring right-of-way to be able to put that redundant water line. Again, kind of something similar. The redundant line that we currently have, it's a little over 50 years. So to have a true redundancy to where if you had a break in your main line, you could easily do a redundancy and switch to the other line. We're putting it on the opposite side so you don't, if you had something happen, you don't cut both lines at the same time. So that project's continuing to move forward. Again, still working on some property owners with easements for that. Our headworks analysis, finishing completion there. That is the capacity that you're able to bring into the plant. The headworks is exactly what it sounds like. It is the head of the wastewater treatment plant. So upgrading that to be able to handle some of the things at that facility. And then our B&R project, bionutrient removal. You probably saw some of that on your tour. To be able to treat some of the sludge that comes from wastewater, to be able to remove that. That was actually a part of a state requirement for our bionutrient removal process, so we can become in compliance with some specific numbers. So that is nearing completion. So within the next year to year and a half, a lot of our projects in water and sewer will be completed. But I think it's paramount to ensure that, we don't get behind on, water and sewer upgrades. We need to continue to make sure that we're investing in our infrastructure so we can continue to have future growth, both residential, commercial, and industrial. So I think, with our capital improvements plan that the city adopted 2 years ago, our CIP plan, our mayor and city council have done an excellent job ensuring that we're on track for the next 10 years of the upgrades that we need to do in water and sewer to make sure we're providing services and future services for residents, businesses, and industries. So I can't say enough good things about our Public Works Department, and Public Works includes our water and sewer plant, which a lot of your upgrades are going on at. It's hard, it's easy to see economic development when a building goes up. That's an easier sell. It's hard to say why your utility bill went up because you can't see all that had to go in to bring and treat the water plant or wastewater treatment plant, to bring it into compliance or to bring it up to improved infrastructure. That's hard to physically see, but I know certainly when I turn the water on at home, I'm very thankful for the water and where it came from, but the manpower, the chemicals, and the infrastructure needed to be able to do that is just something the city has to ensure we stay on top of.
Absolutely. And, you and I talked about that when you first came and you were trying to decide, and make decisions about where money was going to go. And that was one of the things you said. You were like, post-COVID, the monies that were available, there was that hard decision of, do we use it for these things or do we do something that people can see and touch and feel? And it was really important to you to be transparent about that we used it for things that people could see and touch and feel because we wanted people to embrace those things. And so meanwhile, you guys worked really hard to find the money elsewhere to do the things that still needed to be done, because industries look at that stuff. Like they have a need for, how do they dispose of the things that happen when their chemical processes happen? How do they get fresh, clean, quality water? Because I think it's weird. What is our break? It's like top 10 water users that we have. It may be bigger now. Last I heard it was around 10. So it's like 10 that need enormous amounts of water to do what they do. And they need quality water to do what they do. And so like when you think about that, like you said, you turn the sink on, you expect that there's going to be water. Well, when they turn those valves on and they do those things, like they expect that the water is going to be there. Otherwise you're making them lose money and lose, so you have to think about the citizens, you have to think about the industries, you have to think about the small businesses. It's a lot that goes into that.
And I think you touched on something that I don't know how many of our viewers are aware of this, but you said, about different industries needing a certain amount of water. So if you look at almost all of our industries, they are state permitted for a specific allocation. So by state statute and permit, the city has to ensure whatever they're permitted for, that we can provide that flow, whether it be water or wastewater, because they are permitted for that. So that's something you don't think about a lot is, well, they may use this much this month, or they may use their full allocation. The city has to legally be prepared if they wanted to use the full 1,000,000 gallons that we could provide it that day.
Well, and it's kind of crazy because you also don't think about, you think about the amounts that some of them use. Some of them don't necessarily use a huge amount, but it's got to be the quality again. Like they don't use a large amount of it, but what they do has to be good water. And so you've got all of that, going on in the background. You've got the selling of the water and the contract with Greensboro and selling another municipality water, which is phenomenal for us and such an economic development tool to be able to do that. But, we spent all this time with Krista and with Mo the other day, and, they were talking about, you wouldn't think that Greensboro is higher, but they actually, we have a gravity line with them where they can release the lever and the gravity can release the water back to us if, God forbid, something were to happen. It's crazy. And in my time, we've replaced the spillway, which was a huge undertaking and a big, big project. So I just wish sometimes, and I think it's so important that we're transparent on this, that the viewers knew and thought about. So those citizen academies, those leadership Rockingham programs, any of those things that you can participate. But again, just listening to the podcast, paying attention. If you get mailers, if your water bill includes something, I promise you it's important. You should read that. So because we are trying to inform people, and people get information in such different ways now. Used to be you could put it in the newspaper and everybody knew about it.
And I do want to touch on two things you said real quick. So the Greensboro contract, I do just want to put something out there. I think there is sometimes some confusion on how
Yeah.
that contract works.
I think so.
So that contract, I think there was some confusion. I'd heard that the city of Reidsville received $1 million a day through that contract. That is not true. I mean, that's in our budget. That's public record. That's transparency. We ultimately, the city of Reidsville receives about $1 million a year, and that funding is used to help offset that additional rate that us as residential, commercial, or industrial users would have to pick up. So that money goes right back into that to help offset some of those anticipated and daily costs for our water and wastewater. But I did want to hit on that because that is something I had heard, was that the city of Reidsville received $1 million a day. That is absolutely not true. So it's $1 million a year. The other thing you talked about, kind of talking about leadership, Rockingham, and some great opportunities and making sure you get information out there. One of the things I have to get props for our Assistant City Manager, Chris Phillips. His department, it's important to please read your water bill. We have now tried to make sure, because a lot of people don't use social media. A lot of people may not drive by Market Square and see the kiosk. So we thought about, what other ways could we reach our residents? So a lot of times you'll now see on your water bill, it looks a little different, but you'll actually be able to see additional information, whether it's events coming up, whether it's a report. So we're really excited to be able to utilize that feature. But like you said, with Leadership Rockingham and other great programs, Citizens Academy, make sure you participate. Like, I think that's such a great way to learn about local government and businesses and industries, but it also gives, an opportunity for those businesses, industries, and local government to hear your feedback as a citizen and see some of the questions you may have.
Yep, I think so too. Well, we are about out of time. I did want to go over really quick, for transparency, the budget, kind of where we are with it and what happens until it gets approved.
No, thank you for that. So where we are right now with budget, we had our retreat February 19th and 20th, and now we just had all of the departments submit their budget to the city manager's office. It was last week, April the 2nd. So we now have those requests for the next 2 weeks. Myself and our assistant city managers will be going over those budget requests with the department head to understand what their needs are, why they requested it. Once we have that done in 2 weeks, we then have a meeting with City Council, and I believe it's going to be April 21st. It's a Tuesday. I believe it's April 21st. I'm trying to do the date in my head. Tuesday, April 21st. It's open to the public. It'll be a 5:30 meeting at City Hall, and it will be a chance for myself and our Assistant City Manager, Chris Phillips, to go over with council what we saw in the budget as far as specific requests from the department heads, which includes like your capital equipment. It also gives us a chance to go over with them what we're seeing revenue-wise by projecting revenues of where we see we'll end up as we go into budget. So that's the next big thing for us, is that budget retreat on April 21st at City Hall. And I'll get you that date for sure. Then the next step in the process is we will have a proposed budget to City Council at their May meeting. At that time, the budget will be made available to the public. It's delivered to the council, and it gives the City Council an opportunity to look through the proposed budget. It also gives the public an opportunity to look through the proposed budget. It is then up to council if they want to have a second work session, probably towards the end of May, to where they can ask additional questions. It also, gives an opportunity for the public to come then as well. And then we will have a public hearing at our June City Council meeting, which gives an opportunity from anyone from the public to come ask questions, make requests, or to, disclose to council if they have any concerns with the budget as well. And then from there, it's up to council if they want to adopt the budget. But there's several ways. If you're interested in the budget process, all those meetings are open to the public. The budget retreat and end of April this month, our May City Council meeting, if the council decides to do a called meeting in May as well, and our June meeting. So you have at least 4 or 5 opportunities to see the budget start coming together as a citizen or resident.
Yep. I think it's awesome that y'all are always transparent and always willing to talk about it. And I think that that is important. So
Thank you.
well, we are out of time, and we, as usual, we can talk and talk and talk about things, but if people aren't listening, they aren't getting what they need. So I would encourage people not only to listen to these, but to tune in. You guys have a really great app. You have social channels. You have a website. People at City Hall are always willing to field phone calls. So get engaged, however that is that you want to get that information. So
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you for being
Thank you. Glad to
here,
be back.
and I'm so glad you're back.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that is it for today's news and views. As always, you can find us in the heart of downtown Reidsville at 140 South Scale Street and on our social channels and our website, reidsvillechamber.org. Stay tuned, and we'll see you soon.